Let's get live to Old Trafford for more reaction to the sacking of Erik Ten Hag as Manchester United manager. Ben Ransom is there for us. You can bring us up to speed, Ben.
Yeah, well, look, obviously it's changed a lot here, the landscape in the last hour or so. Erik Ten Hag no longer in position, and essentially what it boils down to is the fact that the club's hierarchy decided that although it was a difficult decision for them to make, they clearly tried to give Erik Ten Hag every possible opportunity to turn this around, to show them the progress and the faith in the process, which he has talked so much about, but ultimately results have cost him his job. They haven't seen that progress, and that's why the board took a unanimous decision to make today the day that Erik Ten Hag was removed from his post. And essentially it boils down to the numbers, the fact that they've played 14 competitive games this season, including the Community Shield, and they've won just 4 of them. They've got a negative goal difference across those 14 matches. If you look at how they've performed in the league, the club currently sits 14th in the table, 11 points from their opening 9 Premier League games. They're just above Leicester City and Everton for context, but if you throw forward their average number of points they've accrued so far towards the end of the season, the board simply felt that that was not going to take them to the top 4 finish, which of course is so important for this club to start challenging again, because Manchester United have become synonymous with winning the Premier League, but in recent seasons it's been very, very difficult. And those 2 domestic trophies, the League Cup 2 seasons ago and the FA Cup in the summer, not enough for Erik Ten Hag, not enough to show his superiors that the club was on the right track and to have that faith. So they've gone with the decision today. They've put Ruud van Nistelrooy, a man who seems to be equipped to take over in the short term. As Gary Neville was just saying, it'll be interesting to see how much he's able to change. They have, remember, a League Cup game against Leicester in midweek, and then it's that home match against Chelsea at the weekend. Ruud van Nistelrooy was brought here by Erik Ten Hag to be part of his coaching staff as part of that reshuffle in the summer. But in terms of performances, in terms of that progress, it's not exactly helped them change and get on the front foot and change this narrative that seems to be United are a long way off the pace at the moment. So that's the decision from the board, and as far as Manchester United are concerned now, it's looking to the future. With Ruud van Nistelrooy in position, it at least gives Ineos, it gives the board a little bit of time just to weigh up their options. My colleague, senior football reporter Melissa Reddy's been reporting in the last hour or so that the club have been working through a shortlist of around 5 potential replacements for Erik Ten Hag. At the moment, though, Ruud van Nistelrooy buys them time, and he will be in charge for that midweek game, the first match in the dugout as the interim manager against Leicester City.
Ben, thank you very much for the moment. We'll be back with Ben throughout the course of the afternoon, live from Old Trafford. A reminder, you can see that game for Manchester United against Leicester in the Carabao Cup live on Sky Sports. Chief reporter Kaveh Solokol is still here with some details as to why, in terms of the timing, Manchester United have acted today.
Just some more reasons why Ten Hag has lost his job. I'm being told one of the reasons was his inability to improve the players that he signed. Obviously, United have backed him in the transfer market, they backed his judgment, but when these players have come in, it's not just their form hasn't been that good, it's because also Ten Hag hasn't improved their form. Also, there was some confusion, something that Steve and Sue have mentioned about how United were playing. I think the senior executives at the club are watching every game and scratching their heads trying to work out what it is exactly that Erik Ten Hag is trying to do. And that decision to play Mazraoui as a number 10 raised eyebrows at the highest levels of Manchester United. As for the players themselves, I think some of them feel they've been in a bit of a vacuum recently. They don't really know what has been going on. And also, I think one of the reasons the decision was made to part company with Ten Hag, a very minor consideration, but his performances at press conferences recently, where some of the things he's been saying, I'm not sure have really matched what has been going on behind the scenes at the club. For his own part, Erik Ten Hag, I know he's a very confident character. He feels that he will prove people wrong elsewhere and go on and win trophies at another club. And he feels that given time, he would have got it right at United. And don't forget, to be fair to him, he has won 2 trophies at United in 2.5 years. It's just that they haven't been the really, really big trophies that United fans want, the title and the Champions League.
Welcome along to the final part of the football show this Monday as we react to the news that Erik Ten Hag has been sacked as the Manchester United manager, with Ruud van Nistelrooy taking interim charge of the team. That is the short-term solution, Sue Smith. What should the long-term one be?
Wow, it's a really big question, isn't it? I think whoever it is, it's got to be the right decision for the club. You look, they've obviously got the ownership in place. They've got the structure in place that they wanted off the field. They obviously then want that to filter down to the on the field, and unfortunately for Ten Hag, that wasn't the case. So whoever it is, it's got to be the right manager. I know there's so many names that have been put in the hat for who it's going to be, but I heard Gary Neville talking before. It's probably got to be someone that's going to be able to work with the players that Ten Hag's brought in, because they've spent a lot of money, they backed him, and you think a manager needs to be able to come in straight away and get the best out of this team. We keep going back to Unai Emery just because I think that was such a transformative appointment. He come in with the same group of players, got Aston Villa from a team that were just above relegation to fighting their way up to being a Champions League side, and that's something that this manager has to do, because this team, whether you think the players are good enough or not, you've got to be able to get them into a structure, find an identity that works for them, find a philosophy that works for them, and get them making their way up the table. Because yes, winning trophies, a couple of trophies that he's won, they have to be challenging for Premier League titles, and it's not going to happen straight away. It's going to take time, but you've got to start seeing progression, and that's what the ownership will want to see. Just
on the structure of the club then, in terms of where the manager fits in it all, Stephen, and Sue's right, we have spoken about Unai Emery a lot this morning, but someone who has very much moulded Villa how he wants them. He has Monchi, who he knows very well, above him, whereas you contrast that with somewhere like Chelsea, where it feels as though Enzo Maresca is aware that he is a cog in a wheel. Yep. Certain recruitment decisions get taken above his head. Does it feel a little bit more like that with Manchester United, given there are people like Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox in the building?
Yeah, quite possibly, but it's got to be someone who comes in and understands how the club is wanting to run in the future. So they've got to understand that they're the constraints that they're going to have to work in. There's a budget, there's a certain type of player profile that they're looking for within their setup and the makeup of the club and how they want it to be run. So it's got to be a manager that is open to those ideas. Yes, a manager's got to come in and also have his own style of how he wants to manage. And there's got to be a bit of sort of headbutting at times where they disagree on things, but then they come to an agreement eventually. It is a huge appointment. It's not often the biggest name that's the right thing now. We look at Manchester United in the past, and they've gone for Van Gaal, they've gone for Mourinho, and then you look at it now and go, is it a younger up-and-coming manager? Is it someone who's more progressive, more open-minded to a sporting director and something like that? Because what you're seeing now is that almost managers from 10, 15 years ago wanted complete control of the club. Some can be trusted with it, some can't. There is now the new sort of generation of coaches who come through, and they need that guidance as well. And what they're not great at doing is spotting players, and it might be that they're better at being given players and then coaching them and managing them along the way, if you like. So it's making sure that every box is ticked along the way and picking out that right person who fits most of the criteria ready for that challenge.
Yeah, you just hope within that structure that they've been doing that for a period of time.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, because we always go on about Brighton, don't they? They lose a brilliant player. They've already got one lined up that's going to come in and replace them similarly with their managers. So you just hope now the fact that they've got Brada, Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, they've got those people in place that have been looking for the right fit, and whether that person that they wanted in the summer just wasn't available, I don't know. They'll be hoping that is available now, that's going to take, but it's got to be the right appointment now, hasn't it? We can't keep, because I think that was the thing with Manchester United fans. They've been brilliant, the fact that they have stuck with Ten Hag for so long, but I think they were so fed up of the change and the constant, I suppose, just changing in the manager and the sort of the players and not seeing that progression. So, it's got to be right from now on.
Just quickly, for whoever comes in, or if it's Van Nistelrooy for longer than we think it might be, is this squad good enough to catch the likes of Chelsea and Aston Villa to get into the top 4 this season?
Well, it's going to take a lot because those clubs have all progressed. Chelsea have progressed hugely. Aston Villa are continuing to improve the summer signings that they made. So it's going to be a big ask. But what they have done, what I feel that Manchester United have done well, is they've made the decision early enough to give themselves an opportunity to catch them.
In a word, I'm going to make you both Omar Barada for a moment. Who's the manager?
In the future, Thomas Frank.
Yeah, he would be good. Amorim would be. Yeah, Amorim would be another one. I know he's been linked with.
They're the two you're going
Yeah.
for. OK. What a morning it's been. Thank you very much indeed. Almost got time for Everton 1, Fulham 1, Sue, didn't we? But we couldn't quite squeeze it in. Thank you very much for being with us. This is the last thing you needed, by the way, after Brentford 4, Ipswich 3, wasn't it? You go and have a lie down, Susan, for goodness sake. Thank you very much. A quick reminder then, of course, of the huge breaking news today that Erik Ten Hag has been sacked as the Manchester United manager, with the club currently 14th in the Premier League and without a victory in the Europa League this season. Plenty more reaction to come with Vicky in the studio and live from Old Trafford all the way through the afternoon.
OK, let's get some more on this and what next for Erik Ten Hag. We can cross live to Manchester now, join our reporter Ben Ransom. Very good morning to you, Ben. Ten Hag clearly enraged by that penalty decision. Should they feel hard done by?
Yeah, I think it's those words that echo around Salford Quays this morning, clear and obvious. Every single Manchester United fan I've spoken to, all the pundits, I think Gary Neville summed it up really accurately there as well, just staring at that decision and there's an element of disbelief, because what we were told at the start of the season, let's not forget, is that referee's call was going to be a thing. Those on-field decisions were going to take more of a precedence, and it was only in the evidence of clear and obvious mistake. And can you look at that decision yesterday and say that David Coote's original decision was an obvious error? Well, certainly pundits, I haven't heard one pundit, I don't think, reflecting on the game, suggest that they thought that he was right to overturn his decision. That dynamic with Michael Oliver in Stockley Park as the VAR yesterday as well. So certainly from that point of view, there's plenty of disgruntlement around Manchester about that, because obviously the penalty means more drop points and more pressure on the Manchester United manager.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, drop points. It's now 1 win in 8 games. That's in all competitions. Manchester United's leadership have stuck by Ten Hag so far. But how long do you think that will last, Ben?
Yeah, well, look, the hierarchy have been consistent in their message since giving Erik Ten Hag that new contract after he won the FA Cup in the summer. That's that they want him to succeed. But I think there's also an understanding that alongside that, he has to start winning matches. And you're right to point to the stats. They've not been good enough. Look at the league table. It's not good enough. 11 points from 9 games. Their second lowest tally. They're just above Leicester City and Everton in the Premier League table. They've not won a European fixture for more than 12 months. October last year was the last time they won in that competition, after a pretty dismal campaign last year, and indeed a pretty stuttering campaign in Europe this year as well. And the way they're missing chances, I know you've just been through some of the highlights from that game, and really, I mean, look, we wouldn't be talking about the VAR decision if Manchester United and their players were able to take their chances. They've got the biggest deficit in terms of actual goals compared to expected goals. I think they should have scored something in the region of 6, maybe more than 6 more goals, just based on the quality of chances that they've created this season. Dalot, Fernandes, Rashford, Højlund, Garnacho, they all came close but were denied yesterday in various ways. And Erik Ten Hag will be scratching his head to try and find a solution to that. But as I say, every time they are in the situation after a weekend on a Monday morning when they've not got the points they would expect to, of course that pressure ramps up. We know Erik Ten Hag does read media reports around his position, because he's made that clear. He's referred to them in press conferences. So to see more reports about his future, about possible succession plans, will certainly be frustrating. But certainly the message is still, they back the manager, but he has to get results, and you'd imagine that the time to get those results is starting.